So I've been thinking about everybody talking today, and I think it's 4:45. I don't know you, but I'm sure tired of sitting. And so I thought a couple times I was going to throw away the presentation because I want us to have more of a dialogue. I'm happy to take questions during it. If we get through the presentation, great. If we don't, you'll all have it. So I hate the park and bark sessions where they park you there and I bark at you for the whole time. So please interrupt me as I go forward. So I'm not one of you. I started in research, and research is in my heart, but I haven't been a practicing researcher for many, many years. I've been doing strategy and business development and using and supporting research. So I'm going to take this on a little bit of a different viewpoint. It's more about what we need to be thinking about. And I've been doing mobile since 1999. Yes, you heard that right. A, I'm old. B, we were thinking about mobile in 1999, so I might have a little different perspective. I don't think of this as new. I, in fact, think probably in 18 months we won't be talking about mobile, because 65% of the time when you're using your mobile device, where are you? Sofa, not mobile, right? You're sitting. So I think we'll be thinking about things like small screen, large screen, in-home, out-of-home, connected screen experience. So that's sort of what this is based on. Is I used to work at cars.com, but this is also several companies, different data to really look at what is it we need to be measuring in a multi-channel world, because it's never going to be about mobile. A consumer, or to that matter, we talked a little bit about B2B, your customers don't think of you as, oh, that's General Mills mobile. They don't think that way. They think the fact that you don't have inventory flowing back and forth between all sorts of devices is ridiculous. Now, you and I know legacy systems make all that very hard, but a consumer just thinks we're stupid. So, I think that's where we have to think about, isn't about what are we going to put on this device. 3 years from now, what we should be really thinking about is what is the connection that we can make with our customers based on the connected screen experience. So, are we there yet? No. But I would say, and I guess throw out the challenge, if we don't start thinking about this now, we won't be there in 3 years, because we'll still be talking about, should we be doing eye tracking, when maybe that's not what we want to measure. So, all right, that's the preamble. I'll zoom through this kind of fast. You all know mobile's growing. I didn't want to do all the hockey stick stuff, but I did want to show a couple of different kinds of data that I think is interesting that we don't sort of hear as often. So yes, mobile is growing, and I think it's really hard to read these in the back, but the blue line is mobile, non-voice, where they spend time, obviously growing. But what's not growing because of it? So it's print. It's pretty much the trade-off of print and traditional radio. So that wouldn't include Pandora and things that you do online. But overall, media is continuing to grow. So folks, this idea of simultaneous usage is very important. And then context drives device choice. If you listen to the folks at Meredith, which have a lot of lifestyle magazines as well as television, they think of it as the customer journey. Because again, they are seamlessly flowing from one device to another, and if they can't save what they've done on one device to pick it up on another, it's not very useful. And I think to a large degree, and I'm not talking about gaming here because I think that's in a separate category, but this idea of if your mobile site, your mobile app doesn't make somebody's life better, faster, and easier, why are you doing it? And so if I, in fact, can't save from one platform to another, it probably isn't fulfilling the customer need. So what else? So location tells part of the story, but here again, I think it's pretty interesting. Lat long doesn't really tell you, is someone at home or not at home? And so it's only a piece of it. And we do see, definitely bifurcates by phone. But again, and this is pretty, you can't really see this at all, but the home, it's 63% for your phone. That is so consistent. I've seen it in the IAB studies. This is 4C data. I don't know if you're familiar with 4C, but this is based on a sample size of 400,000 people, so it's big. And so I always see just about that, because it seems ridiculous, right? We all say, no, that couldn't be so, but it is. Tablet, obviously, more and more about home. though I do wonder what the iPad mini is going to do and other things that are that form and function, because I think now my regular iPad seems like it weighs 4 tons because I always carry my iPad mini. So I think we'll see more and more of that as being more mobile. And this is, I think, is the last of the sort of last of the overall slide, simultaneous usage. So I think there's 2 things going on here. One, media companies, of which I've worked for many years, would love to say, well, they're interacting with my show. Well, I think there's 2 different things. One, there's simultaneous usage, and then there's also usage that's sort of integrated, which is actually much smaller than folks who are actually just doing something else while they're watching television. And it does skew a little bit by age. Older folks, tablets and TV. Younger folks, phones and TV. And that could just be about ownership. It could be about comfort. It could be about many different things. But again, it's this idea of simultaneous usage. And what I would guess I throw out to you guys as researchers, what are we doing to understand this? Because that's where the hidden value is going to be with product development and things. What can I do while someone's doing something else? Which leads me to my next slide. How do you measure it? So yes, I was around when the internet became more commercialized. I am that old. And I think we got it wrong. I'll tell you right now, I think we got it wrong. What the hell is a click? What does it mean? I don't think it means purchase intent. I actually don't even think it means you're engaging with anybody's brand. It's a click, right? I see us going down that same path with mobile because of why? It's easy. And I don't mean this to belittle anyone, because when you start, I was the co-chair of the mobile committee at the IAB, and when you start putting together the long list of things you could measure, it's daunting. And the data I will show you will say it's not even probably makes sense site to site in some instances. So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying we should at least think about it before we go down that path of saying this is how we should measure success. And there are just many other factors, which makes it difficult because it's about bringing in other data and ways of doing analysis. So a few case studies. Mobile engagement. So this is from cars.com. And we absolutely saw differences based on what folks were doing, right? What form they were using, which makes perfect sense. You know, you are, even though you're more likely to be on your sofa when you're using your phone, if you're at your dealer's lot, chances are pretty good you need 5 things to do. You need to contact the dealer. You want to find the next nearest dealer so you can see if you can get a better deal. Find the price of what your car's worth. So I think they're very specific things to do. And I would say just optimizing our websites overall ain't cutting it. Because again, it really doesn't get at what is it that someone wants to do there. And that's where it's hard, and that's where we need to lean more on research to help us inform that and understand that. So this information sort of leads you to, if you look at all of the engagement, tablet and is very similar to desktop and laptops. How many of you are seeing that within your own organizations? Nobody? Who's not measuring it? A lot of you. So at cars.com, we don't even consider tablets to be mobile because they exactly mirror desktop information. So, you know, the way they browse is exactly the same. That everything that they do on the desktop is very similar to the tablet. So, you know, whether or not you consider it mobile, again, it's just a label, but we can all feel really good about ourselves and say, well, we have this really big mobile number, but are they really mobile? And I think that's sort of the point. But here, we do see, so what they interact with, and these are all different types of content pages. This is from another company that wanted to remain anonymous, but I at least wanted to show you. So the bottom line is desktop and laptop, and what we really see is, you know, mobile has some very different elements. And my whole point about this is if we choose to measure and make the same KPIs for mobile as we do for the digital products, we're probably missing out on something. and we're probably missing out on something pretty important. So what is that? Well, this is cars.com data, and if you compared the mobile website and the mobile apps on cars to the desktop, and you use something like leads, which is a huge of import to cars.com. Email and phone, mobile's okay. I wouldn't get too excited about it. It's not bad. However, if you look at maps to dealership, huge. Now, how many, printing out a map or looking at a map to a dealership isn't exactly fun. Chances are pretty good you're actually going to go there. That's probably a better lead than an email or phone lead. And if you didn't continue to dig and dig and dig into the information, you would lose the major value point of mobile. And I think that's what I think the challenge is here is if we start to sort of mimic all of our dashboards, right, for mobile that we did for digital or for print or anything, we are going to miss the true value. And I don't think the game is over. I don't think we know. In the retail industry, I would say for most stores, m-commerce isn't about m-commerce. It's really about driving store traffic and building loyalty. So if that's the case, then how do we measure that and those success? So satisfaction, this is some more data from 4C. If you look at this, and I'm pretty impressed actually with the way they measure satisfaction because, and Cars.com use Net Promoter, but the 4C data, you get a much more robust reason of why. So if you just looked at this, you would say, wow, Android users are much more satisfied. Well, there's a reason, because they ask another question, and it has to do with expectation. Android folks don't expect as much. iPhone folks expect a lot. And that is the huge correlation there. And again, I think we miss that a lot of times. We say, oh no, Android folks just love us. Well, maybe not. They just have a lower bar. Now, that means at some point that bar will raise, and we might not be meeting those expectations. So again, I think it's important to really understand what you're pulling out. This was interesting to me because, so obviously, folks who say, yes, they accomplished the task, and it was basically a purchase or they set out to do something, were more satisfied. But even among those who said no, they didn't, 56% were satisfied. And I think, again, that gets back to the fact of we assume we know what the mobile task is, right? But maybe they didn't want to make a purchase. Maybe all they wanted to do was research. And so for them, that was a great task. However, most of the ways we measure conversion is did they go through that funnel the way we wanted them to go through? And by the way, in no industry is there truly a funnel. No one goes right down, right? They bounce back up and down and all around. So again, I think it's really understanding what is it they want to accomplish and for us to build products to do that. Mobile advertising, this was a very typical mobile pre-post for a luxury brand. And what you can't read there, probably, is, well, this is just the pre and post. So here are the results. And you can see for all brand metrics, mobile showed a great increase, a really significant one. But this, to me, is the money slide. So those are mobile searches for this luxury brand. During February, when it was sponsored for that area, searches for that brand increased 31%. That's pretty huge, right? Not a click on that banner. Because they didn't need to click on the banner, right? They knew what they were looking for. They had a task they wanted to accomplish. But that is a true success metric that, to be honest, agencies aren't incentivized to deliver that because that's not the way they're compensated. So I think that's very fair. So it's outside of the traditional pattern of how we measure ROI, but I think it's pretty important. I'm not sure when you're on a screen this big, you're going to click on a banner, and I don't think that's really engagement. It's a click, but boy, I'd much rather see something else and have some better way of measuring it. Now, again, endemic sites can be different than other sites, but I think, again, it's really thinking about What is it you want them to accomplish, and how do we measure that? And is it really a click on an ad? So some key takeaways, unique performance indicators. I see company after company that I work with sort of throwing out the same performance indicators, and it's just not going to be a road to success. I always say this: big analysis, not big data. Data is one thing, but the analysis is the hard part. And I would say, and I think you guys would say, what about small data? What company anybody here think they've cracked small data and everybody's really embracing all the little data you have? No. So we can all jump to big data, but I think we lose a lot of sort of the easy wins we can find through small data. Connected screen experience. Again, it's not about mobile. It's not about online. It's not about television. It's about the experience and how people will pass through. Contextual. And customer relationship first and foremost. And then the last point that's not on there that I would say is don't let perfection stop progress. None of this that we're going to do is going to be right. It's not, and it's for sure not going to be perfectly accurate. Will we learn a lot by 80% right? Might we make some wrong decisions? Yes. But at the end of the day, we'll make more right than more wrong than having no data because it's not perfect. So with that, any questions? You can also say, I don't believe a thing she's saying. I won't be hurt. Maybe a little, but not that much. Oh my God, you'll have to use old school talking.
Can you imagine? How would you define mobile? I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you say, this is mobile, that's not mobile.
So to me, mobile, it's one of those things. So I think there's mobility, which I think is what a company needs to think about, is, how are we going to connect with customers through a mobile fashion? How do we tie all this together? Personally, I think mobile should mean when you're out of the home, using probably a small screen. Because I think there's also the other layer I think will be on there is public and private screens. So, more and more we're going to see bigger screens that are touch screens that are within stores that offer you endless aisle capabilities. So I think there will be this public screen versus private screen. And so potentially what your phone becomes is your private screen that could be in-home or out of home. All I know is mobile, the way we talk about mobile today isn't really mobile. It's just not a desktop.
Even the phone, 63% using the mobile phone at home.
Right. That's why I think it's a term that will, in fact, we might throw it around, but what people will really be talking about is in-home, out-of-home, small screen, large screen, because I think that's the way. And then maybe the public-private will be the other split on there. I haven't figured out a good infographic. If anyone wants to work with me on it, I'm happy to.
So you seem like a lady who just is able to just like whip people into shape and define an arena. And so I'm wondering, you said you used the word unique key performance indicators. How do you get because this is such a broad arena, and seems, how do you get your clients to really make the definition about what they want out of this arena and moving forward?
What they should, So part of it is, I have this, if your product managers, let's just say we start at that level, can have no impact on those key performance indicators, why do we have them? Why do we have them? So if a mobile team, let's say, one of their key performance indicators is advertising revenue, because that's everybody's advertising revenue. But if it's not tied to their mobile product, there's nothing they can do to really move that number. So I think it's really getting it back down to the lower levels to say, what can they do to impact that number? And if it's really nothing, it's not a key performance indicator. It could be a key performance indicator for the company, but it isn't really for that product or that division.
Anyone else?
All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.